This weird obsession with crowd sizes.
During his speech last night at the Democratic National Convention, President Barack Obama hit Donald Trump where it really hurts. And this morning, during an interview with a conservative commentator, Trump betrayed that it did work. He's quite triggered. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, last night was the second night of the Democratic National Convention, and the keynote speakers were President Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama, and they both delivered. They both stunned. Fox News was giving them rave reviews. Fox News. President Obama has a reputation for being one of the best orators and rhetoricians in the Democratic Party, so there were many standout moments of his speech. But there was one moment in particular which everybody on social media is rightly talking about, and it's hilarious, and we're going to get to it. First, I just want to show you, Newsmax wasn't happy. Chiron here at the bottom under breaking news says, Dems cry as Obama pontificates. So much for fair and balanced, although I suppose that was more of a Fox News claim anyway. But let's get to the clip in question. President Obama spoke for about 35 minutes. And again, he received rave reviews in the arena, outside the arena, even from conservative commentators. This was the highlight of the speech. Of all the moments, this is the part that really stuck out to people, and there were many. I'm going to play this clip, and I just want to say, you didn't hear it wrong. He actually said this.
Here's a 78-year-old billionaire who has not stopped whining about his problems since he rode down his golden escalator 9 years ago. It has been a constant stream of gripes and grievances that's actually been getting worse now that he's afraid of losing to Kamala. There's the childish nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes. It just goes on and on.
So the crowd went nuts. He played that part really well. You could see even before he did it, right before he did it, he cracked himself up knowing he was about to do it. He kind of broke there for a second. But yeah, for those of you who are blissfully innocent, that was the 44th president of the United States, Barack Obama, making a dick joke about Donald Trump, suggesting that there is something Freudian and profoundly insecure about Donald Trump's obsession with crowd sizes and just large objects, period. I gotta have the biggest plane. We have a big, beautiful wall. Everything is Freudian. And President Obama is suggesting it's to compensate for a small penis. Now, again, juvenile joke, but given that the subject is Donald Trump, the most profoundly cruel and uncivil political figure in American history by far, a man whom for 9 years or better has made it his primary strategy to make personal attacks that we've never seen before, not just against political candidates, but their loved ones, their spouses, their family members, right? Not just Democrats, but also liberals, progressives, people in blue cities, blue states, people in foreign countries, allies, women, minorities, marginalized groups. It doesn't matter. The media, Donald Trump makes personal attacks again and again and again. So President Obama briefly gave Trump a taste of his own medicine. And we'll get to Trump's reaction here in a minute because he's already given the game away. But before we do, again, I want to show you the immediate aftermath. Even CNN hosts like Jake Tapper and Anderson Cooper, who do their best to be as quote unquote neutral as possible. So they give Trump and give Republicans the benefit of the doubt more often than I'd like. They clearly found it funny.
It was interesting tonight, the particular zingers that both First Lady Michelle Obama and former President Barack Obama made at Donald Trump, because they seemed quite targeted and aimed at things that Donald Trump might be insecure about. And I am specifically referring to his hand gestures when discussing crowd sizes. Over to you.
I want to go actually just straight to Van Jones, because Van...
So even Anderson Cooper, who is usually very stone-faced, he has a great poker face. He's not easily someone who breaks character. Even he's trying not to crack up. Yeah, actually, I don't want to touch that one. Over to Van Jones. I'm going to make Van Jones deal with it. That's hilarious. So clearly Tapper and Anderson Cooper were amused, as I think many people were. Donald Trump, not so much. So this is from earlier this morning. Mediaite's reporting on it. Trump says Democrats are out of control after Obama's torch him at the Democrats' little party. It's pretty sad. Trump joined conservative radio host Hugh Hewitt for the Hugh Hewitt Show on Wednesday, so this morning, and blasted the, quote, Democrats' little party, end quote, after Hewitt asked about the rhetoric being used against him. So Hewitt says, do you think that the lawfare and the rhetoric directed against you contributed to the climate in which you had an unhinged person like the killer in Pennsylvania? He did kill Corey Compatore and wounded 2 other people. Do you think that the rhetoric directed at you and the lawfare contributes to the climate that created that sort of attack? Hewitt asked. Trump said, quote, well, it could. You know, I was mentioned at the Democrats' little party that they have going on in Chicago, and it's pretty sad, Trump said, following the Obamas both blasting him during their fiery talks. The former president called Democrats, quote, pretty sad for focusing so much attention on him. Quote, I was mentioned, I think, like almost 200 times, and they mentioned the economy about 5 times. They mentioned the border, maybe none. They mentioned crime, almost none. So, I mean, they're out of control. These people are out of control, and they're ruining our nation. Our nation is going to hell. Donald Trump is clearly not happy about the dick joke and just being insulted, rightly, for being a stupid, incompetent failure of a president, an authoritarian, malignant narcissist. And I would just say, tough, Donald, be different. Be somebody. You know how usually people are like, just be yourself? Donald, don't be yourself. Be like anybody else. Anybody else would be a colossal improvement over you. Now, I do want to kind of go back to President Obama's tactics, because Politico has a really good analysis about this. The Obama's approach to Trump: make him small. In Chicago, the former First Lady describes the Republican not as a singular historic figure, but just as the latest in a tradition of American demagogues. This is by John Harris. So for most of the past decade, once Donald Trump established that he was not a novelty candidate, but the leader of a slavishly devoted political movement, Democrats have commonly excoriated him as a figure of singular menace. This rhetoric was nothing if not sincere. But the denunciations also gave Trump something he craved and used to powerful effect. They validated that he was a large and historically consequential figure. To call someone singular, even in his iniquity, is a way of building him up, even as the ostensible aim was to tear him down. From a Democratic perspective, the results of this approach were mixed, to put it mildly. In 2 extraordinary speeches to the Democratic National Convention last night, former President Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama offered a markedly different strategy. This is the key. Trump, in this telling, is less a diabolical genius than an irritating, grievance-obsessed buffoon. Like, quote, the neighbor who keeps running his leaf blower outside your window every minute of every day, as Barack Obama put it. He is less a singular historical figure than a wearily familiar one, entirely at home in a long tradition of American demagogues who manipulate race, gender, and fear of other people to personal advantage. The effects of Trump's politics are not a laughing matter, the Obamas make clear, but Trump himself is a whining, insecure loudmouth whose act has grown stale. This is the approach to take. It's seemingly contradictory because Trump is a threat. We have to acknowledge that he's a threat. Number one, because it's true, and number two, because making people aware of the potential dangers of a Trump administration may turn out, increase voter turnout to vote against him and prevent that from happening in the first place. But you also don't want to validate Trump, who desperately wants to be seen as all-powerful and terrifying. He loves to provoke fear in others. It's part of the reason that he loves the Republican Party, because he has intimidated Republican politicians who were too cowardly to stand up against him, even if they recognize that he's an idiot and not a conservative. We have to walk that tightrope. We have to recognize the threat that he poses, persuasively make that case to others, but also laugh at him. Like, reportedly, Trump's least favorite word is loser, right? That's the thing he wants to be called the least. Like, if he has to pick one word that he does not want associated with him, it's loser. He's reportedly quite triggered by it. And this has been consistent reporting for years. It's why, when President Biden was a presumptive Democratic nominee, he made it a mission in his political speeches to refer to Trump as a loser, knowing that it would get under his skin. We have to do that. We basically have to do, not to invoke Hitler, we have to do what Charlie Chaplin and other comics did to Hitler during the 30s and 40s, which is mock him, because they recognized that somebody with the psychology of Hitler did not want to be mocked, right? Or if you're a Game of Thrones fan or a Song of Ice and Fire fan, Tywin Lannister, one of the great villains of the show, he also had this sort of like inferiority complex, right? He was profoundly insecure, never wanted to be laughed at, so he overcompensated with ruthlessness. The worst thing you could do with somebody that insecure is laugh at them. And what President Obama was doing by making a crass but hilarious and richly deserved dick joke at Donald Trump's expense was trying to undermine him, was trying to say, hey, Donald, we don't want you to win. We don't think you will win, but we're not going to treat you as this awesome comic book villain of genius and terror and menace. You're just a doofus. You're doofus. You're so stupid, and you deserve nothing but contempt and mockery for the rest of your life, and we're just going to do everything in our part to give it to you. You don't deserve to be treated, Mr. President. No, you're Donald. You're a pathetic loser. Should be made fun of forever, and we're going to do everything in our power to make that happen. And I think we should participate in that. I think Obama's got it right. And I think the strategy is much more effective than the alternative. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.